Imagine this. You're sitting across from a woman. She's not flaunting beauty. She is beauty. Not the kind that begs to be seen, but the kind that feels like silence after chaos. Her presence doesn't demand attention. It awakens something inside you. In that moment you realize it's not your status, your looks, or your confidence that captivates her. It's your stillness. It's the way you're not performing. It's how you let her be, without chasing, without pleasing, without proving. This video isn't about tips or tricks. It's about truth. About why women are drawn not to the loudest guy in the room, but to the one who's rooted, present, and hard to shake. So before you scroll away, ask yourself this. Are you the man she wants, or the man she remembers? Let's find out. 1. The first weakness. The craving to escape emotion. Women don't love with reason. They love through what makes them forget reason. That's something many intelligent men never understand, and because of that, they're always left behind. The woman you see today, strong, independent, busy, doesn't just need someone to have dinner with or share stories from the day. She needs a place to escape from the very pressure she carries. It's no coincidence that best-selling romance novels always speak of mysterious men, those who carry a touch of danger, not because they are perfect, but because they make women feel alive. Women aren't drawn to the safe man, but to the one who creates emotional contrast, who helps them forget a life too orderly. When everything in life is scheduled, the appearance of someone unpredictable is like a wind that tousles hair that's been too neatly combed. I once knew a girl named Elena, a lawyer, serious, punctual. She dated a man who never texted on time, but told her strange stories about dreams, about nights wandering just to hear the wind whisper in an empty alley. She didn't know why she missed him, but every time she looked at her phone and didn't see a message, she sighed and smiled. Safety makes women appreciate, but aliveness is what makes them stay. So who are you? A harbor to dock in, or the wind that stirs the forgotten emotions in her soul? 2. The second weakness. Addiction to clear boundaries. In love, what women need isn't a man who always pleases them, but one they cannot easily dismiss. The irony is, the easier you are to get, the easier you are to forget. And women, though they don't say it, are no exception to that rule. Don't mistake kindness, unconditional attention, and constant availability as the keys to a woman's heart. In many cases, that just makes you the easy option. A gift that doesn't need to be wrapped or cared for. Women aren't attracted to submission. They're attracted to boundaries, because there they see you respect yourself. I once met a man named Daniel, quiet, not fond of talking much. When a beautiful girl approached and initiated a conversation, he remained calm, not overly eager. That girl, used to being pampered by men, was confused. But the more she got to know him, the more she respected him. Because he didn't rush in to win her. He stood still and let her wonder, am I worthy of entering his world? Attraction doesn't come from giving everything. It comes from holding something back for yourself. Women will test you, not out of malice, but instinct. They want to know whether you'll bend to please them, or if your roots run deep enough to stay grounded through their emotional winds. The question is, do you dare to say no? Do you dare to be absent? Do you dare to live by your values even if that disappoints her? Strangely enough, it's when you stand firm that she feels truly safe. Not because you please her, but because you carry real weight. 3. The third weakness. The thrill of uncertainty. Humans are not addicted to stability. They are addicted to fluctuation. And women, more than anyone, are drawn into the game of the uncertain. Not because they lack consistency, but because their hearts crave to live fully through every shade of emotion, including excitement, anticipation, and sometimes a beautiful kind of anxiety. Think of the last time you were captivated by a book or a movie. What kept you glued to it wasn't clarity, but the fact that you didn't know what would happen next. Your heart beat faster because you were placed in the realm of ambiguity, where every outcome was possible. In the same way, women aren't attracted to the man who says everything on the first date, but to the one who makes them ask, "What is he thinking? Does he really like me? Why hasn't he replied yet?" I once knew a guy named Leo, not handsome, not charming in speech, but he always left something unclear in each encounter. He didn't rush to tell everything about himself, didn't text regularly, but every time he showed up, he brought a strange story, an unreadable gaze, and a silence that made people want to ask more, want to understand more. No one really knew him, and no one could forget him. Clarity can comfort, but the unknown is what pulls us in. Women don't need someone who's completely distant. But if you're too available, too predictable, too quick to give, you've shortened their journey of discovery. The question is, do you dare to leave space so she has to step into it? Or have you already filled everything, leaving nothing for her to uncover? 4. The fourth weakness, the pull of leadership. No woman dreams of being led by a man who's waiting for her to decide instead. Don't confuse respect with passivity. A man who truly moves a woman is not the one who asks, "What do you want?" He is the one who lives with such clarity that she wants to join him on that journey. Women don't always say it, but they are always observing. They sense whether you're walking with purpose or if you're easily swayed by sweet talk, by others' preferences, by the shifting winds of the day. A friend of mine, Michael, often said, "I don't need to control her, but I must be strong enough not to be controlled." In love, he always made women feel respected, but he never abandoned his passion, his plans, or his values for anyone. And strangely, that's what made women feel safe with him. They didn't have to lead the game. They just needed to follow someone who already had direction. Leadership is not about imposing. It's about making others want to come along. Look back. Do you often say, "Up to you, you decide, I'll follow you in everything"? It may sound gentle, but if it goes on, you'll slowly become the one being led, not the one chosen to walk alongside. The question is, are you leading or are you being led without realizing it? Because a man doesn't need to raise his voice, but when he says, "I think we should go this way," and keeps a sincere, quiet gaze, she'll follow, not out of fear, but out of trust. 5. The fifth weakness. Women don't want to be the center of your world. Women don't want to be your life's purpose. They want to step into a life that was already complete before they arrived. It sounds paradoxical, but it's one of the deepest truths about attraction. When you make a woman your reason to live, you don't move her, you burden her. Because true love is not dependence. It is the meeting of two worlds already in motion, but willing to open the door for one another. I once knew a man named Adrian, full of passion for making documentary films. He loved a girl named Julia. But when she asked, "What if I leave?" he replied, "I'll hurt, but the film still has to be completed." Julia cried, not because she was hurt, but because for the first time she met someone who didn't fear losing her enough to lose himself. Women may be gentle, romantic, love to be cherished, but deep down they are drawn to men with purpose. Men who live not just for love, but for something higher, broader. The more you orbit around someone, the easier it is to be replaced. But when you orbit around a mission, you become a force of gravity. Women want to feel invited, not as a refuge, but as a companion in an adventure that began before they came. The question is, if she disappears tomorrow, will your life collapse, or will it carry on with unwavering belief? Because in the end, a woman feels lucky. Not because you need her to survive, but because you've lived so beautifully that she wants to stay. 6. The sixth weakness. Calmness in chaos. A woman may test you with emotion, but what truly draws her in is the calm you maintain in the midst of the storm. In love, things aren't always peaceful. There will be moments when she's angry, confused, or inexplicably sad. Even she doesn't know why. Most men react, rushing to explain, to fix things, or worse, getting angry in return. But a truly strong man doesn't get pulled into that game, because he understands. She doesn't always need an answer. Sometimes she just needs an anchor, a door that doesn't slam shut, a gaze that doesn't judge. I once witnessed a moment between two lovers. The woman, overwhelmed and exhausted, said harsh words. He simply looked at her in silence. He didn't walk away. He didn't argue. When she quietly broke into tears, he handed her a glass of water and sat beside her, saying nothing. That calmness, not loud, not boastful, was the quiet flame that made her want to stay. A man who doesn't get swept away by emotions is the safest place to rest. A woman won't say, "I like you because you're calm," when I'm losing it. But she'll remember for a long time the one who didn't leave when she wasn't easy to love. The question is, can you hold your silence, not because you feel nothing, but because you've learned to choose what's worth responding to? Because in a world full of stimulation, calmness isn't weakness. It's strength. The kind of strength that makes a woman feel at peace, not through your words, but through your presence. 7. The seventh weakness, the admiration for a man with a greater purpose. There is a kind of man a woman never forgets, the one who lives for something greater than himself. Not because he is successful, but because even when he has nothing in hand, he carries a distant look, as if he's walking towards something grand, deep, and filled with inner fire. Women don't just love with emotion, they also love with admiration. They want to believe the man beside them is going somewhere, and that she might become a part of that journey. I once met a young painter named Julian. He lived in a cramped attic, his paintings hung in disorder, money always lacking. But in every word he spoke, in every brushstroke, there was a burning belief that one day his art would bring healing to those who could not express their pain in words. A woman named Elise, usually composed and emotionally reserved, fell in love with him. Not because Julian made her feel safe, but because with him she felt part of something bigger than a relationship. Women are drawn to vision, not to be led, but to be included. A man who lives without purpose changes easily. But a man with a mission, even a small one, makes others want to walk beside him. The question is the life you're building a space someone can step into, or just an empty room waiting to be filled with love? Because love doesn't last on dependence. It grows from admiration. And if you can make her look at you that way, not with need but with respect, that love won't easily fade. 8. The eighth weakness, the desire to grow beside someone they admire. A woman may be attracted by looks, moved by gentleness, but what makes her stay is admiration. She's not just looking for someone to love. She yearns for someone who makes her want to become a better version of herself. Love shouldn't be a shelter from the world, but the place that awakens a longing to step out into it. And the man who is truly magnetic is not the one who teaches a woman, but the one who silently helps her grow simply by how he lives. I remember a story about Claire, a woman working in finance, always strong and emotionally in control. She had dated many successful, capable men, but none stayed long in her mind. Until she met Adam, an unknown poet living simply, spending his days reading old books and writing reflections on human nature. He didn't try to impress. He just lived genuinely. But every time she talked to him, Claire felt herself becoming more thoughtful, more gentle, as if a part of her was being awakened. Women want to love someone in whom they see a future, not just a present that repeats itself endlessly. The man who makes her feel challenged, inspired, and accompanied in growth is the one her heart will stay with. The question is, does your presence awaken something beautiful in others? Or are you just coexisting with them? Because in the end, love is not a place to stay still. Love is the place we want to keep walking forward with someone who is truly worth it. 9. The ninth weakness, obsession with the elusive. What we hold firmly in our hands, we tend to take for granted. What remains vague and uncertain keeps our minds circling the same unanswered question. Women are the same. They're not obsessed with the man who says, "I love you" too soon, nor with the one who's always there when they need him. They become obsessed with the man they cannot figure out. A man they're not sure. Does he like me, or is he simply living his own quiet life? Deep attraction doesn't come from what's clear, but from mystery. Not because women enjoy playing mind games, but because imagination is the catalyst of emotion. When they don't know exactly what you're thinking, they begin to imagine. And that very imagination becomes the strongest emotional bond. I once heard a girl talk about a man she could never forget, even though they only met a few times. He didn't talk much, didn't flirt openly, but his eyes, when he looked at her, seemed to hold an untold story. She knew nothing about him. And that's exactly why she couldn't stop thinking about him. The man who's too easy to understand becomes boring. The one who's too predictable becomes forgettable. But the man who holds silence within himself becomes a mysterious invitation the heart can't ignore. This doesn't mean you should play mind games or pretend to be busy. It means you should live so genuinely that you don't need to perform anything. True depth always makes others want to understand more. The question is, are you living in a way that makes others easily know everything about you, or do you carry a depth that makes them want to return again, just to understand a little more? Because in a world full of predictable words and images, a soul that holds something unspoken is the most haunting of all. 10. The 10th weakness. The fear of losing the man who doesn't try to prove himself. The man a woman fears losing the most is the one who doesn't try to be kept. He doesn't strain to be accepted, doesn't fight to be loved, doesn't keep repeating, "I'm a good guy, choose me." He doesn't need to, because his presence is already enough. In a world where everyone wants to be seen, liked, acknowledged, the one who needs nothing becomes the center of attention no one can look away from. Women may be easily swayed by sweetness, attracted by appearance, touched by sincerity, but they are obsessed with the man who doesn't need to prove anything and yet still makes them want to reach for him. I once met such a man. His name was Sebastian. He didn't use social media, never showed off achievements, and didn't over-explain. In love, he didn't make grand promises. He simply showed up when needed. But when the girl left him to find someone more exciting, Sebastian didn't beg. He didn't text. He didn't blame. He returned to his work, his travels, his passion for photographing deep forests. And when she came back, confused because all those exciting men were too easy to read, Sebastian was already farther, deeper, freer. The man who doesn't try to convince anyone is the one we most want to stay with. Not because he's cold, but because he's real. Not because he's arrogant, but because he never loses himself just to keep someone else. The question is, are you living in a way that needs someone to validate your worth? Or are you clear enough in who you are that just being present already creates attraction? Because in the end, the greatest pull isn't an invitation, but a quiet self-possession that makes others fear losing you without knowing why. Conclusion. In the end, these are not 10 weaknesses. They are 10 doors, and each door doesn't lead you into a woman's heart. It leads you back to yourself, deeper, more mature, more grounded. Because true attraction isn't a tactic. It's not a psychological trick, not a calculated move. Attraction is a byproduct of living with depth, with boundaries, with purpose, with inner strength, and with silence. The man a woman cannot leave isn't the one chasing her, but the one steady enough to walk beside her, no more, no less. He doesn't need to prove he's good enough, lovable, or irreplaceable, because the way he lives, the way he remains silent, the way he leads, and even the way he says no, speaks for itself. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be genuine. You don't have to hold on. Just be grounded enough not to be swept away. Because attraction doesn't come from what you do for her, but from who you are without her. And if you live like that, not to convince, not to control, but because you choose to grow, then you won't need to chase anyone. Because someone who lives true to their essence will always have others who want to walk with them. Thank you for joining Stoic, Strong Mindset, wishing you peace and mastery over yourself. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Stoic, Strong Mindset channel to stay updated with more meaningful life lessons. See you in the next video.